Okay, stop for a second. Let me give you today the big secret that nobody has the courage to tell you. Smoking actually has tremendous benefits. Yes, you heard that right. For example, you will never grow old because you won't live that long anyway. You won't need to make retirement plans or save money. You ease the government's healthcare burden early. How charitable, right? You even directly sponsor tobacco company CEOs in buying their new yachts. A true philanthropist. Do you understand the reality now? Okay, I'm getting serious now. This is irony, of course. But this irony should make you uncomfortable. Because your mind might have already responded to this with, but my situation is different. That is exactly why we are here. Life is actually ridiculously simple, but we are in love with absurd answers, fake comforts, and mind games. In this piece, I will tear apart the psychological illusion built around cigarettes. I will use concrete statistics from Europe, America, and around the world. If you are ready, we are not burning your lungs. We are burning your mind. Why are you still smoking? Did we really ask ourselves this question? Did you actually sit down and say, explain the logic of this to me? Because your brain is not a truth-seeking machine. It is an approval-seeking machine. This is called confirmation bias in English. This concept was first introduced in the 1960s by British psychologist Peter Wason with his famous card tests. Wason's finding is clear. People search for evidence that confirms what they already believe, not evidence that proves them wrong. You are doing exactly this. With every cigarette, you collect evidence for the lie, "It relaxes me." When you feel that fake 5-minute peace, your brain records, "See, it worked." But it ignores the nicotine withdrawal stress of the previous 23 hours and 55 minutes. The tension that the cigarette itself created. In the 1950s, yes, that recently, American doctors appeared in cigarette advertisements saying more doctors smoke Camels than any other cigarette. This is a marketing success, but also the biggest confirmation bias operation humanity has ever seen. Society already wanted to believe. Tobacco companies just fed that belief. According to the 2023 ENSP report, 68% of smokers in Europe say, "I want to quit." But 71% of those same people say, "The time is not right yet." This is exactly how confirmation bias works. The brain collects evidence both for wanting to quit and for not quitting being justified. Awareness is your superpower. You now know this filter exists, and once you have seen something, you can never unsee it. Now let's get to the core of the matter, the concept from Harvard Business School and Charles Duhigg's 2012 book, The Power of Habit. SAR, the habit loop. 3 parts: trigger, routine, reward. Trigger, stress, a cup of coffee, a friend's cigarette, that gap after a meal, a phone call, any of these. Routine, reaching for the pack, taking one out, lighting it, inhaling. Reward, that instant dopamine rush that nicotine delivers to the brain. But here is the problem. That reward is terrible. Why? Because nicotine restructures the brain's dopamine receptors from the very first cigarette. The brain can no longer produce dopamine on its own. It needs nicotine. So cigarettes do not solve stress. They only suppress the withdrawal stress of the previous cigarette. This is like using gasoline to put out a fire. According to CDC 2022 data, 34 million adults in America smoke. 55% of these people try to quit every year. But only 7 to 9% succeed without professional support. Why? Because they are trying to erase the habit loop. Science tells us one clear thing: you cannot erase habits. You can only replace them with new ones. MIT neuroscience research shows that habit loops leave physical traces in the brain. The basal ganglia stores these loops as schemas. When you quit smoking, this schema does not disappear. It just stops being activated. So, with the smallest trigger, that old coffee smell, that old stress, the loop can kick back in. Identify the trigger, change the routine, keep or improve the reward. Is stress the trigger? Instead of a cigarette, try 10 deep breaths or a short walk. Both lower cortisol levels without burning your lungs. The 1920s, Berlin. A young Soviet psychologist named Bluma Zeigarnik sits in a cafe observing waiters. She notices waiters remember incomplete orders much more clearly than completed ones. Once the bill is paid, details immediately disappear. The Zeigarnik Effect says the brain constantly keeps unfinished tasks and unclosed loops at the forefront. It leaves them open in the background like unresolved files, and they constantly consume energy. Cigarettes are exactly this kind of open loop. When you smoke, the loop temporarily closes until the next urge. But mentally, you are always asking, when will I smoke? Can I right now? How many today? This background noise consumes your cognitive energy whether you notice it or not. It scatters your attention. It breaks your concentration. A 2021 UCL study measured working memory in smokers. Result, smokers' working memory performance was on average 22% lower than non-smokers. So that cigarette every morning is not making you smarter. It is making you slower. Share. Project data shows cognitive decline in middle-aged smokers progresses 2.5 times faster. Close the loop. The energy comes back. It is that simple. But first, you need to see that open loop is stealing something from you every single day. Italian economist Vilfredo Pareto noticed in 1906 that 20% of the population owned 80% of the land. This ratio appeared again and again in business, economics, and productivity research. Today, we call this the Pareto Principle, or the 80-20 rule, and this rule is working in your life too, ruthlessly. The WHO's 2023 Global Tobacco Report. Smoking causes 8.7 million deaths worldwide every year. About 1.3 million are due to secondhand smoke. In Europe, this figure is 700,000 people annually, approximately 1,900 lives per day. In the U.S., smoking is responsible for 85% of lung cancer, 80% of COPD, 30 to 40% of heart disease. That single habit, that routine lasting just a few minutes a day, is the source of the overwhelming majority of your health problems. This is the medical version of 80-20. According to NIH data, an American smoker spends an average of $2,292 per year. But that is not the real number. Smokers' annual healthcare expenses are on average 32% higher. In the UK, NHS spends £2.5 billion every year on smoking-related illnesses. This money comes from taxpayers' pockets. What matters is identifying that vital 20% and quietly, ruthlessly, decisively eliminating it. Here we come to a very important psychology concept, locus of control. American psychologist Julian Rotter developed this concept in the 1950s. Two types of people. Internal locus. They believe their own decisions shape their lives. External locus. They believe external forces like luck, fate, and environment govern their lives. When you say, I can't quit, which group are you in? I can't quit because I'm stressed. My friends smoke, my job is hard, the timing isn't right. This is external locus of control. And you know what? I completely understand. These feelings are real, but using them as excuses nails you to that chair. What Stoic philosophers said thousands of years ago, modern psychology supports with data today. You can only control two things, your actions and your reactions. Stress is not in your control. Your environment is not in your control. But the decision of whether to reach for the pack when you wake up in the morning, that is yours. Stanford psychologist Kelly McGonigal's research reveals willpower is not a character trait. It is a muscle. It gets stronger the more you use it. Small decisions build big habits. Refusing a cigarette today sends your brain the message, I can use this control. As this message accumulates, your locus of control shifts inward. Try saying, I haven't quit yet. This small language shift is a move from a passive position to an active one, and this shift changes everything. Most people know the damage cigarettes do to lungs, but very few people talk about the damage they do to the brain. A 2020 Johns Hopkins study examined sleep quality in smokers. The result was striking. Smokers enter deep REM sleep 40% less than non-smokers. Since nicotine is a stimulant, every cigarette, especially in the evening, disrupts the sleep cycle. Harvard Medical School research shows that chronic sleep disorders are directly linked to concentration problems, emotional dysregulation, weakened immune system, and long-term cognitive decline. So cigarettes hit you both when you are awake and when you sleep. As for dopamine, the brain normally produces it from exercise, social connection, achievement, and creativity. Nicotine hijacks this system, and the brain gradually stops needing those natural sources. The result? Smokers consistently scored lower on life satisfaction scales. A 2022 meta-analysis in European addiction research. 40,000 plus participants from 18 countries. Smokers report an average 18% increase in life satisfaction within 3 months of quitting. So cigarettes are not relaxing you. On the contrary, they are making you dependent on cigarettes just to feel relaxed. Why is smoking still perceived as cool? From the 1940s to the 1980s, Hollywood portrayed smoking characters as romantic, rebellious, and free-spirited. James Dean, Humphrey Bogart, Audrey Hepburn, all of them had a cigarette in hand. This was not an accident. Tobacco companies paid Hollywood producers for product placement for years. This truth came to light through federal investigations in the U.S. in the 1990s. But today it is 2026, and this perception is collapsing. In the UK, the 18 to 24 smoking rate dropped from 26% in 2010 to 13% in 2023. In France, the same group went from 31% in 2015 to 19% in 2023. The Netherlands passed a roadmap banning all tobacco sales by 2040. In the U.S., the adult smoking rate dropped from 20.9% in 2005 to 11.5% in 2022, almost halved in 17 years. Gen Z, born between 1997 and 2012, is the generation with the lowest smoking rate in history. They look at marketing manipulation with a critical eye. The aesthetic is mental health, energy, productivity. Smoking is no longer cool. This is not a judgment. It is a demographic fact. Now let's get to the practical part. Because knowledge is not power. Applied knowledge is power. Let's start with what does not work. Trying to quit with pure willpower alone is only 3 to 5% successful. Nicotine addiction is a real neurochemical process. Saying, just quit, is like ordering someone to run with a broken leg. NHS Quit Program research. Nicotine replacement therapy combined with behavioral support raises success to 25%. With bupropion or varenicline, this rate reaches 30 to 35%. Using a quit app alone provides a 15% success rate, well above placebo. Technique from Andrew Huberman's Stanford team, cyclic sighing, double inhalation, followed by a long exhalation. This technique rapidly lowers anxiety during nicotine withdrawal. No cigarette needed. There is also implementation intention, which holds a powerful place in psychology literature. Simply make an if X happens, I will do Y plan. Example, if I feel stressed, instead of reaching for a cigarette, I will walk 5 minutes. This increases goal success by 200 to 300%. This is not an exaggeration. Peter Gollwitzer's decades of research supports this figure. Let's go back to Zeigarnik. Do you remember that open loop? Now is the time to close it. Get a piece of paper or open your notes. Answer this. When you quit smoking, what changes in your life? Not just health, everything. Waking up without coughing, breathing freely while exercising, money left in your pocket, smelling cleaner, causing less harm to the people around you, your brain working more clearly. This list is your why. Research shows the most powerful way to change a habit is not to make it feel bad, but to make what replaces it attractive. Australian study. Gain-focused quitters lasted 40% longer than loss-focused ones. Saying I am reclaiming my energy instead of I am quitting smoking is a different framing, and the brain reacts very differently. Oxford's 50-year study. Quitting before 40 means 9 extra years of life. Those who quit before 30 close this advantage almost completely, reaching a life expectancy as if they had never smoked. The brain can change. Habits can change. Loops can be closed. Nobody is coming to save you. No miracle drug, no right time. You are both the hero and the rescue team. You read this. You saw the data from WHO, CDC, NIH, NHS, Oxford, Stanford, and UCL. You understood confirmation bias, the habit loop, the Zeigarnik effect, and the 80-20 rule. But none of these will transform you. Knowledge is not power. Applied knowledge is power. Close that loop today. Reclaim your energy. Keep building your mind.